taboo.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Revenue Hacks here, and we're talking about individual hotels versus chain hotels and everything in between. Welcome, everyone who's tuning in. So my name is Anna Sirba. I am operations manager at Solcombe Harbour Hotel, Harbour Hotels chain, and happy to share my experience with everyone. So we have Silvia and Calvin on show today.
Hi, everybody.
So,
hi guys.
Hello. So my background. Shall we start from the background? What do you think, guys? What we've done before? Perfect. So I am a chain baby, I would say. Started with chain hotels, a huge corporate group, German group. Then I moved for a little while with individual one. I had a shock, moved back. So now I'm with the luxury hotel chain, which I really enjoyed. That's where I'm very comfortable. So what about you? What about you, Silvia? Oh, hello.
She might be frozen. She might have froze in a very good looking way. Most people get frozen like, you know. But I guess I'll go now then.
Okay.
I started out in chains as well, and I worked for chains for most of my career until closer to the end, where I worked for some independents back to back. So maybe the last 4 or 5 years was in independent properties, and it is very different. The two very different worlds, which I know we're going to get into, but I will say I have a certain. I would probably prefer independence because of what I do. In revenue management, you have a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility with what you can do in independent properties. That, of course, presents its own challenges. But if I had to lean strictly revenue management, I'm probably going with an independent hotel.
Welcome back.
Hi, sorry. I had a problem with my connections, but I'm back.
Well, you were frozen in a very good looking, picture. Most people are frozen, with like in the middle of blinking or their mouth open. We were ready for you to speak. You look like you always do.
I was lucky to say thank you. Great.
So Calvin was saying that he prefers independent hotels versus chain hotels because of the flexibility and creativity, so that you can.
I'm in between, let's say, because I was saying before frozen that I'm actually like you, Hannah. So I was 13 years in chain, so I started over there, and so my mentality, my mindset is absolutely of a chain person. I call myself as a chain person, and that's how it is. I cannot change it. So the way you grow in chains, the analytic approach you have in everything. There's a great education, lots of pros in there. Really, and I had a great experience. I loved it. Then 4 years ago, I moved to independence, and I had a shock because it's a completely different word. But it's not either a negative or positive shock. It's just different. What I see is that I agree with Calvin. There's more freedom for independence, because when you are in chains, probably you might be sometimes stuck in some rigid procedures. So you don't have that much freedom, or better, you have freedom within a fixed frame, which might be different from chain to chain, but you have to just follow what are the guidelines and procedures and the hierarchy from the corporate. So you need to follow suit that, and that's kind of different. But I think that's a good part. That's positive and negatives in both words. It's just a matter of understanding where you fit and find your fit in both.
Exactly. For me, when I would say when I started, it was amazing because it was best school for me. So all of the procedures set up, that you know what you do. You've got all of the guidance. You have tons of paperwork, and you have answer for literally everything. So when you need something, you know where to go. Chains, they covered it all. When I moved to independent and I moved to the higher position, I moved to management position and was progressing. And I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And no, I didn't, because I needed to do everything that I knew, and I'm very confident that I knew what I was doing. Plus, I needed to learn everything else, because they were independent. They were like, yeah, we don't have support from head office. We don't have this. We don't have that. You need to know bits of. I moved as a reservations manager, but I needed to know all of the distribution, because apparently they assumed that reservations manager would do all of your distribution. Why not? All of the revenue ins and outs, contacting the OTAs, and they only started, so they were like evolving, and it was amazing learning curve. In terms of when I started with independent, I was trained what to do and how to do. Other way with chains, but when the independent, I needed to do it all myself, and but I was very creative, so I was able to make a mistake and not really, still stress about it, but it was kind of, I knew that I'm doing it. That there was no one above. It's very, very short and very close family that you work with, so you know everyone, you can easily talk to everyone, rather than with a big chain. It's not that easy.
No, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, I think system wise is where you see the biggest difference, especially on the revenue side. With your chain, it's pretty much flip the switch, everything's running. You don't have to set anything up. At least here in the States, with a branded hotel, you're probably looking at close to 50% of your business is going to come straight through your brand channels. Half your hotel is you don't have to work to find these people. They know what a Hilton is, they know what a Marriott is, they know what a Best Western is, whatever. So once they see that website up, once they see you, they know what to expect. Excuse me, it's still early here, that's why I'm drinking the tea. But when you go to an independent, no one knows what your independent property is. So you have to create that awareness, which means you have to get deep in marketing, websites, digital marketing, e-commerce, all of these things. You have to be all over that stuff to raise that awareness. And system wise, you have to build it. Recently we've been talking about, tech stacks and stuff like that. You're going to do it from top to bottom in an independent hotel. You need to know what you have your PMS, your channel manager, your RMS. And I felt like a puppet master at an independent hotel, because instead of actually revenue managing, spending the whole day making sure all these strings are attached. I feel like you might have one day out of the week where you're not worried about some connection from one system to another. Most of your time is going to be spent just simply making sure everything is communicated, making sure all your rates are displaying properly everywhere that they need to be. But with that, comes that flexibility of being able to build whatever you want, set your rates whatever you want, build any packages that you want to, display how you want to. Brands, you're very restricted with that. So it, like Silvia said, it's pros and cons to either one. It's just what kind of person are you? What has more of the pros that fit with how you work?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I'm also consulting, what I see, the great part of the job that I have to do when I start with a hotel that I'm consulting is actually to create all these tech stack and put them together, because they actually, for independence, I think that the biggest issue is about education. So they don't know what's available out there, the potential that they can have, investing in tech, investing in that kind of system for their hotels. So great part of my job right now is to really, put everything together and make sure that everything flows correctly. I think that and I'm seeing the comments that are coming through also, Larry, what's saying is that chains hotels give you more option for global travel, but can be perceived as generic or cut and paste. While for individual, he says there's more freedom. It's true. I think that for when you grow and you have the opportunity to work for chains, as I was saying, you develop a mindset and a mentality, great analytic skills. So you are able really to understand quickly what's happening at your hotel. You're able to read the data, and you're able to put everything into context, which is something that sometimes the individual hotel is missing. Because they have to deal with operations, they don't have that much time, and the functions are more transversal. I remember that when I was working in chains, I was doing revenue management 100%. And that's all that I was doing. Now that I'm working for independents, I'm doing revenue, digital, sales, marketing, psychologist sometimes. So, there's great knowledge. It was for me like starting over. So when I moved from chains to independent, it was for me like starting a totally new job. But I think that if you have the opportunity to try the best of both worlds, that's the best thing that can happen, because you really can see everything. For me, chains was great. I love chains, but it was like living in a bubble. You always talk to the same persons. You always use the same systems. You don't know what's out there. I didn't know anything about the outside tech before. So if you have the opportunity to mix and have different experiences throughout your life, I think that's the best thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, with the independent as well, as much as you have the loads of opportunities and you're very flexible and you can be very creative and you can pretty much do what you think is right without anyone telling you what to do. At the same time, and there is a comment about OTA commissions. You have quite a lot of obstacles. It's a good point, because you are pretty much on your own. So you go to these big players and you try to negotiate something that when you're in a chain, it's basically
magic.
given, because it's done.
It's all done for you with the chains.
It's all done. It's true. And talking about commissions and distribution, I think, there's a big difference in distribution between chains and independents. There's no possibility that you can go like to Booking.com or any other big player and negotiate your commission levels or anything when you are a little independent hotel. So for sure, that's it. But we don't. I remember that when I actually I was starting the discussion about chains and independents on LinkedIn, we had a comment talking about soft brands as well, because that's something in between. So you have soft brands hotel or light branded hotels that are a little bit a mix between managed totally 100% chain property and independent hotel. And that's probably an in-between situation where you can find yourself, and you have more freedom, but at the same you can leverage the potential of the brand. I don't know if that's something you experienced, guys, in the past. I see that it's really an in-between situation between a chain and a brand.
I think that's the perfect situation that you can have when you have a little bit of both. You have the support and you have all done for you pretty much from the head office, from your management, from the management. But at the same time, when you can have this little bit going that way and deciding I want to do it this way, that's perfect scenario. But sometimes it's not always possible, and it's not always possible for chain to make sure that their standards are the same, because that's the main goal. But that's why you have a chain. You have to make sure that you deliver exactly the same standards in all of your outlets and all of your properties. Exactly. You can't have the same brand and delivering completely something different. That's wrong. So when it's balanced, but it has to be rightly balanced, then it's great.
Yeah, so, indeed. That. Go ahead,
Silvia.
No, I was actually, this links to the last comment that I saw about brands always promote the brand, they sell over the individual property. It's not always like that, but I understand the feeling that sometimes you might feel, having lived for 13 years in brands, that sometimes your property is not considered as the peculiarity it has. That's sometimes the limit that some hotels might experience. I have to be forced to participate in this promotion or to be part of this project, which I don't feel it really belongs to me. So this is something that probably needs to be worked around at times in order for hotels that is so particular, especially when we are in the luxury segment, that might not necessarily think that it fits in with the brand direction at times. But I mean, that's something that happens, I think, at all levels. Also, when you are an independent hotel and when you are dealing with an OTA promotion, you want to participate or you don't want, you have to find the right fit. So there are challenges in both scenarios, I think. But I understand the feeling of this comment because I lived it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like this outlook. I'm not sure how many people would look at that as an advantage, but I do. You know, I'm of this mindset. I think that, you know, being able to build something yourself is a huge advantage because you get to promote your hotel the way you want to. You control how people view that out there. You know, all the things we've been talking about with, you know, email marketing and website and social and all of these things. You control all of this. With the brands, you have to do what they tell you to do. You know, you're not just going to build any package, or your website is going to look a certain way, you know. And I know myself, as a traveler, if I find a hotel and, like, you find one of these branded hotels, even if it's really nice, just the website alone, because you know, a JW website will look the same as a Courtyard. It's the same basic structure, and it's kind of like, you know, it should be a big difference between the hotels. You don't get this feeling when you find them, you know. But at the same time, that's what gives you, and that's what gives a traveler that that confidence, because they know, hey, if you've seen a Marriott, you've seen a Marriott. I don't care where it is. You know what to expect when you get there. You may not know what to expect at an independent. And again, it really just comes down to preference. But I certainly I'm of the mindset that if I'm starting something, I'd probably rather it be an independent where I can kind of control all of this stuff. But knowing that, hey, that build up time, that ramp up time is going to be hard. You know, you understand that that's going to be a lot more work than if you popped up a Hilton.
Well, yeah, in chains you have more opportunities, I would say, in terms of transferring from one property to another, because you know the standards, you trained a certain way. Bigger brands, you know, you can transfer from one country to another if you want to. It's easier than you are when you start from independent. But when you try both and you know what you prefer, you know what you want, you know where you want to go. So and then it doesn't really matter what background or where you started, because if you want to be everywhere, if you want to do everything, social, revenue, marketing, sales, then independent. If you more focusing, as Silvia said, on the purely revenue, you're doing purely revenue and you know what you're looking, you're doing your analytics, then chain is.
Yeah, it's like what Abe is saying in the comments. It all comes down to brand contribution. Show me strong brand contribution. That's a chain guy, right? You know what I mean? If you're just strictly focusing on the revenue management, you know, a good half of your hotel, 30% probably minimum, is coming through the brand. You don't have to fight for that, you know. So I can certainly see that mindset.
Yeah, I remember when I used to work in chains, I also was involved in development and acquisition process and projects. So the first thing that when we went to an independent hotel and see if we had the opportunity to englobate in the brand, the first thing that I asked was, show me your contribution. What are you bringing me? What's the additional revenue that you're bringing me? And which I kindly agree. Yeah, actually brands bring additional revenue, members and everything, but it's not just automatic. It's not that just because you're part of a brand or part of a chain, it all comes down like this. You have to work still with your own, you know, strategy in order to make it work with the brand. So, you know, there's still an old school mentality, I think, on that. Sometimes in independent hotels that just you take a brand and everything, all your problems will be solved, because it's not that revenue will flow in. Like
yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't mean to make it sound like, you know, revenue management doesn't. You don't have to work at a chain, but I mean, when you start looking at these rewards nights, redemptions, and
I
know,
know,
your website, that stuff just falls in. You know, let's be honest, we don't have to work for those. You know, that's just coming in, and that, you know, most properties, at least in my experience, that's roughly 30% of, if you look at annual of your contribution, and that's stuff that you didn't really have to work for. That just came because you're simply a brand that they you know, the guest recognizes and they have a loyalty program with. So you're going to take that all day.
Yeah, Exactly. And as Adele say, yes, you have contribution, you have costs. That's part of our job, you know. So we have to manage that all. I remember when I was in Chains, and we had, as you mentioned, like the loyalty programs. You might have like flows and flows of members coming in, but you need to manage that. You have to deal with all these great amount of revenue opportunities that you get. But again, it's up to you. So I think that one of the things that I really missed about Chains was the fact that you really had the opportunity to, besides revenue and technology and everything, to network with lots of people all around the globe, because in the end it's like a little world you live in. Because I remember, every time we had like these meetings and networking events, you really have the opportunity to grow your network and learn from, I think, some of the best talents out there. And this is something that for me was really priceless when I started. The opportunity to move around, as Anna said, yes, absolutely. Then you still have a different world out there when you go to independence, because when I moved, I started to talk to partners, technology providers that I didn't know existed at all before. So, as I said, opportunities and pros and cons in everything, in anything. I think still that soft brands is the direction to go. And we have seen what I've seen over the years is that soft brands are growing in popularity. So probably we are seeing more and more soft brands growing over the next years. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's probably the direction of the industry.
Yeah, and also like when you were the brand, and especially in revenue management, you're not stuck to one property. You overlook more than one. Let's face it, you have to be in charge of, I don't know, sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 35, sometimes it's even more. Depends. With the individual, you have autonomy over one, but you have full on. Which again, whichever is suitable for you, whichever you prefer, where you feel good, and what you like to do. So I when I was doing my revenue management career, I preferred one, and I was independent hotel, and I loved it. I can't see myself doing 15 properties because I think I will just go mad. But what about you guys?
Calvin, go ahead, sir.
I'm going to be honest. I was looking at the chat and the comments, so I'm going to need the teacher to repeat the question. I apologize.
I was saying, so what about you? So how many properties in your career did you have to look after simultaneously at the same time? And what do you think? Would you do one, or would you do 20? And what was the main difference for you?
The main difference is obvious. It's a lot more work, a lot more stress. I mean, I've managed up to 8 properties at one time, which it's a different. It's just different. When you have 8 properties, you're not doing everything like as if you just have one, right? So I would say majority of my career, I've had one property, maybe 2. That's at some time, like I said, I've grown to 8. When you have one property, I think it's you get a lot more involved in everything. Every adjustment by the front desk, everything in accounting. You're really nitty gritty on that stuff, right? Because you just have that sole focus of that one property. When you have a portfolio that starts to grow to 3, 4, 5, 6 hotels, you really can't get that into the day to day, which is why you need to rely even more on the operations team, or maybe you have an analyst at these properties or whatever it is. You need to rely more, and that communication is a lot more important. And building those relationships with the property teams is even more important when you have a large portfolio, because they also know that your time is split. And listen, I mean, everybody wants to feel important, right? Everybody wants to feel like, hey, this is our person who's managing our hotel, we know you have 6 or 7 more. Then it's like, are you
Mhm.
really paying attention? Are we,
Yeah.
is what we're doing here even of importance to you? So building those relationships when you have a larger portfolio is even more critical.
Totally agree.
But yeah,
I
you're going to
totally
be
agree.
stretched.
Totally agree. But
I
this is what you
manage.
get with chains. You wish chains, you don't have the choice. Sometimes you've been told this is how many you have to look after.
Yeah, I looked after 3 or 4 maximum, so I needed help. So I couldn't do it all by myself. Of course, I had a whole team with like there's a strong hierarchy. So director of revenue, revenue manager, revenue executive. So I needed help, of course, because there's a lot of work to do. The point is that what I always found funny is that sometimes we had properties coming in and out of the management. So even if I had one property more, my salary remained always the same. So that was the funny thing. My work was more, but the salary was the same. But I have 4 people. So also when could we touch also that hot topic of salaries, and is it really different between chains and independents?
Mm.
Who goes first?
That's interesting.
Salaries,
In
benefits, and all that comes in.
I could see benefits being different. I think if you're working for a large brand, they're going to have that. That's part of all the infrastructure that just comes with that. A lot of these things are negotiated brand wide, chain wide. So when you start out, the hotel has that package already built, and they can command better rates from benefit companies because they know that, okay, listen, we have 1,000 hotels, you're going to provide for all of them. We can negotiate a better rate. Benefits, definitely. I'll be honest, in my experience, salary hasn't been very different between brands or independents, but it sounds like it might be different for you, so I'll throw it back to you.
Hmm. I can actually jump in on this one. In my experience, I would say chains, you had lots of add-ons. So you have your stays, your discounts, your travels,
Mm,
maybe training opportunities, that's just packaged. Where independent, you can tailor make your career for you. You know where you want to go, so you can I don't know, get support, or you can get sponsorship. Where with brands, it's a bit trickier because this is what, again, my personal experience. Salary wise, maybe independent in my, again, personal, were offering me a little bit more because I don't know, maybe they were like, we individual hotel, we need to compete, but I don't know. I don't really know. I can't really say it's a massive difference. I don't know how to for you, Sylvia.
No, I think I agree with you, Anna. I mean, it's not a massive difference if you think about the whole package thing. Like, it's not just about
right.
money, it's about having the training, education, opportunity to grow your career, networking, and everything. So if you compare the two, in the end, you have more opportunities in chains, and the package is more interesting just because of there are all these non-monetary values that you have that come with your package, let's say. Then, of course, if you have to hire and you are a small independent property, the only leverage that you have is money, because if you have to attract talents, you cannot give all that a chain can give in terms of, growth, education, and things. So you need to focus more on the money side, so on the salary side. So I agree with you. I was, of course, joking about that thing about one hotel in, one hotel out, but that's what comes with it. There comes more people joining, great bigger, responsibility, but also opportunities. So absolutely agree with you. In the end, it's more or less the same if we look at that.
Yeah, and I was just going to bring up this comment as well. This is also a really good point. If you're tied into something like this, it tied into profitability, you might want to look at the independent. Again, it really just comes down to what your preferences are, right? Or what where you are in your career. The question came up about, is salary everything? It could be, depending on where you are at what point of your career you are. There's a time where you're looking to build your build your status, build your titles, looking for higher titles. But then there comes a point where you have the title you want, you're doing the job that you want, and salary becomes more important. So there's a point where maybe not everything, but it could be most of it. It could be, talking contribution, it could be 90% of your contribution, as for what you're looking for in your next role. So it really depends where you are, but it's a good question.
But I have to be honest, there is one big difference, but it's something that I really miss. It's the staff rate. The staff rate in chains, I miss it so much right now, really. That's the only difference that I cannot get in independence.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is, you have these different like leading hotels of the world and small luxury hotels where you can get a little bit of both, where you're at an independent property, but you're also part of this network of other independent properties where you can get some of those benefits, the staff rates and stuff like that. But yeah, that's definitely a good perk of working for large brands and large chains.
Yeah, but networking is like one of the key for, I would say, anyone, everywhere, all the time. Are you independent? Are you brand? Are you whatever? You just, network, go to your local businesses and make sure you have perfect contacts with them, your friends and then you can get discounts. You can agree on a lot of things. Then even if you're independent and you have really strong relationship with your local brands in your area, then you can use it as a big perk for staff, which can go into added value package as well.
Absolutely.
So just looking into the comments as well.
Yeah, let's do this everything.
Got a lot of comments this time.
Yeah, very active today. Love it.
Yeah. Oh, well, there was a comment about franchise fees.
Franchise fees. Yep, that's something to consider as well. It's definitely that's going to take out a huge chunk of what you're doing. Those could be very, very large. A large part of your profitability. Similar to the other comment about profitability, but again, you know what you're getting with that, right? Or at least you know what they tell you that you're getting with that, but you're getting that recognition, and that's a lot of times hard to quantify. I mean, you get your brand contribution and things like that, but when you're able to put that flag on your property that everybody in the world knows what this experience is supposed to be like, that's what you're paying for, so again, it really just comes down to what you're looking to do, where you feel more comfortable. I think if you really want to try to boil it down, if you had to put it into two different boxes, is if you like more structure, you want to kind of know every day this is what is happening, a brand or a chain is probably for you. Independents are a little bit more chaotic in a lot of ways, but that gives you more flexibility and to be creative and figure out how you want to position your hotel. So last time I used a brand, I had one booked. I had one booked a couple of months ago, but the conference was canceled. But I had one booked not too long ago. How about you guys?
I use all the time. Seriously.
4 years ago. If you want to extend one for me, Abby, that would be really appreciated.
But he's a friend of the show, so hopefully he's got some offers for you. We're gonna hit him up after this.
Redemption.
There are lots of comments flowing, but I think we are running a bit out of time today.
Yeah, so we have we're almost there, and then Calvin's G-Spot is
Hi, Calvin Tilokee here, and this week on the G-Spot Minute, we're talking about creating structure. Over the past few years during the pandemic, many of us have had to work from home. Some people like myself have started their own businesses, which forces you to create the structure for yourself. When you have a 9-to-5 job where you're going into the office, it's all created for you. When you have to work at home or you're running your own business, it's much more difficult to stick to that schedule. So you really need to focus on being accountable to yourself. And one thing I found is setting a schedule. Make sure that you're waking up at the same time every day. Make sure you take your lunch break around the same time every day, and plan your day around specific deadlines like that to help create the structure for yourself and help keep you accountable. Which I don't get to wake up at the same time every day because of this show. I wake up early for you people, just so you know.
But you have the tea close to you. Sure,
I do. I have my tea. It has a little caffeine in it. It helps to, soothe the frog in my throat. So usually by the end of the show, I sound like a normal person, but the first few minutes would be a little crazy.
Well, great show today. Thank you very much, guys. We have so many comments. I just can't stop reading them, but we'll try to respond.
Do we have time for one more?
Okay.
The last one Larry sent in, I think, is really interesting about career development. Are candidates better off working for independents or chains? I see talent acquisition and development can be an obstacle for independent hotel owners. I think that is a very good point. And again, it goes back to where you are in your career. I mean, I started out with brands, and I was able to move up fairly quickly every couple of years into either different properties and different positions, because you have that ability to say, well, look, if I started out at Hilton, if I worked at this Hilton and I want to apply at the Hilton and, a market, they know that I know their systems. Yep. They know that I know their training and their corporate culture and all of these things. Independent early on could be difficult. There are less of them out there depending what market you're in, and they don't know. You may not be using the same systems. I started in reservations. If I started an independent hotel, I might be using a completely different system than the independent hotel across the street. So the learning curve could be different. It's a very interesting thing, and I think it depends on the individual where you are in your career. But the way it worked out for me is I kind of learned all the skills at brands and was able to move up. And then once I got to a point where that wasn't as important, I was able to jump over to independence. And because at that point, I'm not looking to, change my title, every couple of years, but definitely an interesting thing to keep in mind.
Well, I quite the last comment from Dylan: independent hotel challenges a leader's creativity more because less operation structure exists. Yes, you have to be a very strong leader to work everywhere, but in independent hotel, you're on a spotlight, and then you take all of the responsibility and you take all of the blame on yourself as well. So it challenges you to be a leader. Or you learn to be a leader quicker, I would say.
You're a lot more exposed in a lot of ways that are independent. You don't have that. You don't have that cushion of the brand in almost every way. So, that's just something that you want to keep in mind.
Cool. Perfect. And do you want to say anything else, Silvia, or are we wrapping up?
No,
now?
I totally agree with what Calvin said, 100%.
Perfect. Well, amazing. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's wrap up here. And thank you so much for audience for so many amazing comments. Still going through them. Catch up after the show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. See you next week.